Hello, it's Paul McFadden, and welcome to the Property Success Podcast. Because my goal with the podcast is to inspire you with our guests, and today's guest is an absolute cracker. You're going to love her. I know you are. I know you are. All right. She's laughing away. Trust me. Right. And it's quite funny because we were talking just before we started the podcast. And she's like, "Oh no." And I'm like, "What do you mean? You've got such an amazing story. I can't wait for everybody to meet you and hear you about your own story because I know you're going to inspire." Oh, by the way, Lynn McMaster, welcome on the podcast, Lynn.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
You're going to inspire so many people. I promise you on this. You guys are going to love it. So Lynn has been on her property journey for the best part of a year. And what she's achieved in that year is remarkable. It really is. But I really want to get into her story. So Lynn, how I like to kick off these podcasts is to go back to the younger person, your younger self, to find out a bit more about you, your background, and ultimately what got you interested in property in the first place. So take me back a little bit. So tell me a bit more about your younger self.
Oh my goodness. So my younger self was obviously going through school. I was always kind of like the problem solver at school. People would come at me if they'd had a falling out and say, "Lynn, I'll fix this. Come, Lynn, there's been a problem here. Come and speak to them." So that was my school time. I started as a YTS when I left school in fourth year in a grain merchants, which was an eye opener. I was the coffee maker and the gopher in the office, but made an impact, I think, and with the ladies that I was working with. But soon discovered after about 3 months there that it kind of wasn't for me, and an opportunity came to work in a travel agents in Kinross, which is where I grew up, the vast majority of my growing up time. So I went down for an interview there, started there, and met my very first mentor, which would have been Margaret Stewart, who I still speak to today, only through Facebook, but I do still keep in touch with her, and I think about her often because she taught me a lot in travel. It was only the two of us that worked in the branch, and every day was great fun, dealing with customers and fulfilling their dreams of what their wee holidays were and all that kind of stuff. And then I moved on from there quite quickly. I was given a full-time job after 3 months just there, and moved quite quickly on to another branch in Cowdenbeath, Brown Travel, then on to 80 Mays, which it turned into being. And again, I met a lady there, my manager, Marie, and John, who were great mentors at that time, helping me, push forward as best I can. It's predominantly been travel. I went on to worked my way up through different branches and ultimately became a manager in a branch in Perth, and met Grant, had family, and that was it. Didn't want to go back to work really, but I did end up going to a branch that was closer to where we lived in Dunfermline, and didn't really enjoy it. So worked from home with another lady that I met, Yvonne, selling holidays from home and advertising on teletext, called Lynn's Sizzlers back in the day, which is just like looking back now, it just seems like a different lifetime. But again, all good fun. My daughter was there. Our first daughter anyway was there, and Grant, and obviously he had started working offshore. So that's predominantly my younger life, but always been customer based. Always dealing with people, which I've always enjoyed.
Yeah, and you've taken it into your property journey as well, which I can't wait to get into because it's one of the things that I often talk about is just having that client focus and the way of just communicating, getting to know them, having conversations. It can really give you so much, just being able to communicate with people in terms of JV partners and collaborating with people, the people in your power team, and one of the things that you're good at, and everyone compliments you on,
Aw.
and and you've got to take these compliments as just how chatty you are, how positive you are, how upbeat you are, and how that you just have conversation with people, and you get to know them, and that there's just an art in itself,
Well, that's good. If it's been an unconscious journey, then if that's what's happened, but that is good. I like to make people feel at ease around me, and I do like getting to know. I'm always interested in people and how what their journey's been and what's got them to where they are. And if I find somebody that's been, had a hard time, I want to try and help them the best I can. So yeah, I do enjoy interacting with people, definitely.
Great. So take us on that journey from where we left off there, in the sense of um, maybe recent years before property, and then what got you to even consider and look into it.
Um, so the more recent years, Grant's worked offshore since we got together, which he likes the work and hates being away from the family. And I think most people in the offshore industry will say the same if they've got kids. But most recently, he's super unhappy where he is. So years ago, when maybe 13, 14 years ago, slightly longer maybe, timeline's maybe not exact, Grant wanted to get into property at that point. It was just before the crash, and everybody was telling him, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. However, he had the opportunity to buy his grand's flat, which is where it all started. And then he had an opportunity to buy a house that was right across from where we were living at the time at a fantastic deal. Someone was needing, a very motivated seller. Not sure about the reasons why. However, managed to secure quite a good deal on that. And he wanted to take it further, but again, listening to all the noise round about, telling him this isn't the right time to do it, couldn't be a worse time to pick property, blah, blah, don't touch it. So we just sat where we were. He was doing his offshore work. I was obviously full-time mum. He didn't want me to work. He wanted me to be at home with the children all the time. And that's what we did until probably ultimately I took a wee part-time job on as a recruiter for a care company, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And I was promoted to regional recruiter within a year. Done that for another couple of years, and then unfortunately was made redundant. But that was another whole journey. Everything's a journey. Everything's an experience, really. But I did enjoy it. And then we decided, what are we going to do for our future? Neither of us really had much of a pension. What are we going to do for the kids? What kind of legacy could we leave for them? And I had thought about going into the funeral care business. Because my best colour is always black. It's what I wear all the time. I'm thinking I'm already dressed for the occasion. And I also thought I could maybe help pay back a little bit for some of the experiences Grant and I went through, obviously, as a couple. And I felt I had maybe a little bit to give and that I could resonate with people on a really personal level. So I went down that road, went for a wee bit of training on it. That was mind-blowing, but I still thought, no, I can definitely do it. But Grant didn't want to do it with me. He was like, this will be your own thing because there's no way I'm getting involved, which is understandable. So I spent a lot of time looking for a suitable property for that. Couldn't find one because they were either too big, too small, didn't have parking, weren't close enough to the schools for the kids, obviously, because Grant was going to be staying offshore. So that dragged on to the point that Grant went, look, we're going to have to think about something else. And he found you. And we went along to your Jumpstart, and that was it. We were hooked from that point forward. And that just took us down this journey that we're on now, which was doing Protégé for a week, which was fantastic. Becoming your one-to-one client, which has also been great, and ultimately taking us to where we are now.
So I love this whole story, right? Because I'm finding out more about you as well. And I thought I knew quite a lot, so this is good. So I always think it's great to do it with your partner. So both yourself and Grant came along, did Protégé, which was great. How did you find Protégé first and foremost?
Just the things that you learn that have been drummed into you from a young age and that you understand now after doing Protégé is just bonkers. Is what blew you away. And the different strategies that you can have with property and the relatively low risk that it is, as far as investments go, because you hear about stocks and shares, and which is a whole different kettle of fish. Property out of them all, I think, is the most, what's the word I'm looking for? The most
Maybe safe and secure, or
safe and secure. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. And especially if you're been saving up your money for a long time and your pot's not that big, you don't want to be putting into something that's high risk.
Yeah.
So this is a definite level that is manageable for everybody, I think.
Yeah, I love what you're saying there, because some people might be watching or listening and thinking, what do you mean? Of course, property's a risk.
Yeah.
But understand, when you invest in stocks and shares or crypto or anything as such, another business, it's on the speculation that it's going to go up. The difference is with property is before you even exchange money and buy, you've done your due diligence.
Yeah.
So you know your numbers. And that's what I mean about de-risking. When anyone's lost money in a property deal, it's because they didn't do the due diligence.
Yeah.
And that's why I believe that property is an incredibly safe investment, providing the due diligence is done well at the beginning. And of course, you always buy right in the beginning. So when some people say to people along the lines of, especially what you guys heard in the past,
Yeah.
you know, is that it's the worst thing to get involved in property, it's mainly from someone who doesn't understand, and you know, and they're ignorant to how property works. And ignorance is not a bad thing. Ignorance just
No.
means you don't know, because you make money when you buy,
Yeah.
and you can make money in any market cycle, when it's going down, when it's too high, because it's all about buying right in the first place. And
Yeah.
I guess that's the stuff that we teach. And then having multiple different strategies that allows you to be a lot more competitive and make more deals work.
That's right. I mean, some of the things that you hear that other people in the tribe are achieving are just phenomenal, and that's just where I want to be now. I'm not a big-headed person or want to be on show or anything like that, but I when you see what they're able to achieve in a short space of time, I just think, well, that's what I want. That's my goal now.
Do you know what's crazy when you say that? Is I think you've achieved unbelievable things already, Lynn, which is just crazy. And it's one of those ones where I think everybody's guilty of it, that we don't look at our own success as success as such.
Yeah,
Because
probably.
we're so in the thick of it. So tell me about your journey since Prodigy, because it's been a journey,
It
you
has.
know. So
Yeah.
maybe tell us a little bit about that and some of the deals that you secured and what you're working on.
Okay, so the very first property that Grant and I got fell through, and it put us on the back foot a little bit, because we thought, oh no, here we go. It's all going to go wrong. This isn't going to be the thing for us. It's not going to work. That was more probably Grant's vision on it, whereas Grant and I are kind of yin and yang. He's kind of not super negative, but he sees the downside in things first before he sees the up. And I'm the complete opposite. So I'm like, look, this is what Paul said. It's just a journey. Things are going to go wrong. There's ups and downs. There's new things to learn. There's going to be challenges that you're going to come across. I says, and we're able to fix the challenges. That everything in life is fixable. That has always been what I've said from a very young age. Things are fixable unless it comes to a health thing, which some of those things aren't. But on the whole, you can find a solution for everything, really. What you don't want it to be is super expensive, but
Of course.
you do always find a way. However, we negotiated through that. That deal did fall through because it was a repossession, and somewhere along the line we hadn't been told about excess debt that had been left on it that the bank wanted us to take on ownership of, which just wasn't going to happen. So we negotiated back and forth for a little while on that, and it just wasn't going to work out. So we just walked away. Shortly after that, we were just obviously following your lead, which is going out and doing as many viewings as you can possibly do. Anywhere, different types of properties, just go and view them to get the experience of doing your due diligence and looking for problems that you can solve. And through that, I ended up phoning a letting agent in an area that I didn't know, just to ask them what an idea of the rental market was in that area. And she said, "Are you looking for rental properties?" And I said, "Yes." And she had said, I've got an exiting landlord. Would you like to speak to him? And I went, "Yeah, absolutely. Set up a meeting and we'll see where it goes." So on the back of that, we met with the chap, and he took me around the properties, gave me all the addresses. I didn't get to see inside them at that point, but he gave me enough background on them that I could go home and do some due diligence on them. I knew there'd be a level of refurbishment going to be required in them all, I imagined. And on the back of that, we managed to negotiate a good deal at roughly maybe 40% discount. And that's all going through legals just now. And hopefully with the help that we got from Express, we will get all our money out within 6 months doing a staged refurb. They're all tenanted properties, so they're bringing in money for us already. And yeah, so that was the biggest thing for me, to help me with my confidence and my self-belief and thinking I can do this, definitely.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was our first one, and then from the back of that, I ended up getting another property that we had gone to see, and we missed out on that one because our bid wasn't high enough. However, the agent phoned us back because we were the second on the list, because that deal fell through for the original purchaser. So we took that on, and then through making quite good contacts with some agents over in that area, she brought me another property. I went to see it, so I managed to negotiate quite a good deal, £10,000 discount on that one, and we've packaged those two up to give to our investor. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, I want to get into those things, but I need to backtrack for a wee second.
I kind
So-
of went all in.
Which is amazing. So, because what's crazy about that is that many people have a setback, right? And you had a setback. You'll have more setbacks.
Yeah.
You're always going to have setbacks. It's just how you deal with them.
Yeah.
So from that first property where you thought you had a deal secured, and then new information came out in terms of more money that was required, and a bit of a negotiation, and it fell through. And of course it can be deflating, because I know myself from my own experience in the early days when I'm trying to get a deal across the line and it doesn't go through, and I see that with a lot of people. But what I love about your approach there, and it's your mindset approach, is that everything's fixable, especially like a deal like this. Like, of course, it's not the end of the world. We've learned from it. Let's look at the next one.
Yeah.
And then so happens, because for most people it's just this goal to achieve their one deal, you end up getting a portfolio of 5 properties.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
And the best part about that, because I just want to unpack a few things. So you're working with my mortgage company, Express Mortgages. So give them a little shout out, expressmortgages.co.uk. Go and check them out. And Express can help with all things finance and funding. And the good thing about how they're structuring that deal, you're putting how much money in terms of acquiring a portfolio?
Roughly £724.
So I'm glad you said that. Now, some people's going to be watching and listening going, hold on a wee minute. Lynn, you're buying a portfolio of 5 properties. What's the whole value collectively?
Oh my goodness. The whole value collectively is £160,000.
Okay. So again, remember that, because you still got to add value, and this is the whole game plan and everything else. But when people hear those numbers and look at you're buying 5 properties that are already tenanted, already generating an income, already at 40% discount off the actual market value, which we're going to increase through doing a renovation, we've been able to use Express, use the creative strategies we teach at Protege for you to put. So forget about the stamp duty for a second. Forget about all the legal fees. Forget about the refurb costs and the deposits, which if you're going to buy that, you'd probably be in for, 50, 60, 70 grand, 720 odd quid.
Yeah. Grant's bought dearer jackets. Which I laugh at, because he has got quite a good taste in jackets. He's got a bit of a fetish for them. But yeah, so an amazing deal. And I remember driving over when I was going to meet the chap, and I was kind of nervous. And then I thought, what are you nervous about? Just talk to him. It's, what could go wrong? But on the journey through, I was like, I'm not driving all the way through here and coming back with nothing.
Yeah.
And that was, I just kept saying it to myself all the way through on the drive. And lo and behold, it's like when you manifest something in your mind, you just go, nope, this is going to work.
Yeah.
And it has worked. So
Yeah.
that's good.
Love it.
I'm pleased about that.
And the good thing about that is because you have applied the creative financing strategies that we teach at Protege, it just shows you what you can get involved in.
Yep.
You know, so you've got this portfolio and you've used that confidence boost to then move on to the next properties that you've got a great relationship with a number of people, especially one in particular that you've sourced those two deals for in terms of, you know, sourcing, packaging up and selling them on to, you know, your preferred investors.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why I love what you do because you know with our chats back and forth, you've got great relationship building skills, and you can help people, and you've kind of taken that on board,
Yeah.
especially with your investor. Now you've got him in a matter of only a month of taking him on board as a client, secured him properties, and
Yep.
you know you'll be well compensated off the back of that. He's going to be delighted because he gets to build his own portfolio, wants to do more things with you.
Yeah. Yeah, he is. He is really excited about it. We just spoke yesterday actually, and he's looking forward to doing more for us. So I'm looking at one in Fife for him just now. That I'll hopefully get back to him about later today. But yeah, that's him away speaking to his legal department to get all these things signed, sealed, and delivered.
Yeah.
So I'm really chuffed. And it's all based on honesty. I've said to my investor, you know, I am not sitting here saying I know everything about property. Absolutely not, because every day is a school day for me. And but I've been honest enough to say that to him. And I've said, you know, I've got a great group behind me, a great mentor that keeps me right. If I don't know the answer, I'm not just going to waffle through and, you know, tell you anything. I'll make sure I'm giving you the right information, and I follow through on what I say I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I'm not too bad at relationships, because what you see is kind of what you get.
Yeah.
There's no airs and graces or
I love what you're saying and what you're sharing there, because I think a lot of people, especially I'm sure people watching or listening to this, will think that, oh my God, like how am I going to get people on board to want to work with me, or you know, do I need to know everything? And
yeah,
but you've done exactly what I say to people, and is just be you.
that's it.
You know, it's like you don't need to try and be someone that you're not. You will be that person in due course,
Yeah,
but be the person that you are right now.
exactly.
And as
Yeah,
long as you're open and transparent and you just share the information and say, look, I've done my due diligence. Of course, if you want to invest, you'll have a look yourself and
yeah,
make sure you're happy with it too. And if you like this, we can do more. And that
right.
approach has worked incredibly well for you.
Yeah, and I'll always remember going back to my travel agent days when I was very first with Margaret at Lochleven Travel. My God, it seems like a lifetime ago, but you had to learn all because you had to do your exams all through your travel agency exams and your geography exams and all that kind of stuff, and you had to learn. There's every single airport has got a 3-letter code, and they're not necessarily in order like
Mm,
ABC or whatever. And there were thick manuals, and I used to say, I'm never ever going to remember all that. She says, you don't have to remember everything. What you have to remember is where to find it.
yeah,
And that stuck with me from that one day, and it is so true. You don't have to be knowledgeable about absolutely everything, but knowing how to source the answer and knowing where to find the answer and who to speak to and get the right information, that's really all you need, you
yeah,
know. And if you're honest enough to admit to that, you know, some people will try and fake it and, you know, wing it and that kind of, but that's not me.
yeah.
I'll not wing anything, not
Yeah.
when you're dealing with other people's money.
Absolutely. No, keep on being you for
Yeah.
sure. You know, it's absolutely working. And you're collaborating with and working on some other projects, aren't you? Or you've got stuff in the pipeline with other people within the community?
Yeah, so I was actually just speaking to Mark Laurenti the other day. He went and viewed a property for me in Carnoustie because I had been up to see two and I couldn't get a viewing for the third one. But it was the third one I was mostly interested in, weirdly enough. So I texted Mark and said, is there any chance you could go and have a wee look at it? So I've put an offer in for it just a couple of days ago. I'm waiting to hear back. And if that comes off, then hopefully Mark will help me with help me with the refurb. He's got a
Mm-hmm.
wee team up there already, so
Yeah.
he's going to help me with that. I work closely with Paul Hanley, who's become our main builder and go-to guy. He's kept me right with quite a few things. Um, Loads of people have reached out wanting to work with us. It's just a question of getting the properties and then moving that forward.
Yeah.
So I only want to just keep building on that as much as I possibly can. Our marketing campaign's about to start, so that's hopefully going to bring us a little bit more properties through the pipeline, and be able to collaborate with a lot more people in the tribe.
Great stuff. I love how you've mentioned people who's been on the podcast already. You know,
Yeah.
Mark and Emma we've had on, the Laurentis and Paul as well. And, you know, it's good that I think what we've got in the community, and I'm sure you'll agree because you've got the same mindset, is rather than having a scarcity mindset, it's more of an abundance and more of collaborating and partnering and working with one another and
definitely.
supporting one another. It's crazy how that there's this misconception that, you know, you're going to have to try and like, you know, be competitive against someone else and try and cut them out of a deal. Or we get a bad rap. I'm talking about property investors as a whole. And I think that we do a good job through the community that we've built, the tribe that we have. We call it the tribe, of course, the Protege community, that I just feel that having that collaborative approach, that supportive approach and wanting to do things together, it actually makes it a great environment to be part of and to want to be around.
100%. I think the biggest, not regret, but the biggest learning that Grant and I have taken from it is that we waited far too long to joint venture with people. And if I can tell anybody who's starting this journey, who's maybe just left Protege recently, the last few months or whatever, absolutely reach out and get chatting to everybody that's in the tribe, because they're more than willing to help. They're more than willing to JV with you. It's just having that first conversation. But Grant and I were determined we were going to do this together. We were going to crack it, and it was going to be our thing. But looking back, definitely we should have reached out a little bit more in the very beginning. That's the biggest learning that we've had from that.
Yeah. This is what I love about a community. It's the fast track for anybody's journey, because, you know, I've built the community.
Yeah.
I never had the community at the beginning.
Yeah.
And when most people are starting out their journey, try to figure this all out themselves, try to find people for their power team, try to find joint venture partners. Where did they go? Who did they look at? Where did they meet these people? You know, it's the ultimate fast track is to get involved in a community where there's money, where there's deals, where there's builders, where there's solicitors, where there's brokers, where there's every person you need in your power team, where there's the right knowledge and advice on, you know, it's just having that there, especially in the property world specifically, is what I love most about what I've been able to create. And it's taken on a form of its own. What I created, and of course the ethos that we want for that to be in terms of being a supportive and collaborative community, is just grown arms and legs, and it's one of the most fulfilling things that I see. And you're a big part of that, Lynn, because you're vocal in there, you're very interactive, and you know, and people speak highly of you because of that.
Oh, that's nice. It's nice to know. I mean, it's nice to make more connections, but it's also nice to make hopefully some friends throughout the journey. And I think we've definitely done that as time has gone on. And I think in the very beginning, I think another thing that shies you away from being like super, like throwing yourself right in there, I think is because you think you've not got enough to offer other people. But it really doesn't matter. See, if you get over that first thought, supposing you haven't got anything to offer anybody else, they've got stuff to offer you. Their experience that they've had already, their knowledge that they've got, what properties they've already done, what mistakes they've already made. So it doesn't matter what you're bringing to the table. You're bringing you. You'll learn so much off of those other people and their experiences. Then it's absolutely a no-brainer just to start talking to people. We wish we had done it a lot quicker.
Yeah.
But now we've gathered that momentum and we're just completely running with it now.
And how do you find yourself from a year since moving into this new journey in terms of property and business and everything else? How do you think about yourself and Grant in terms of your own personal growth?
Amazing, really. I mean, it does feel like a completely different life, because I think you do. It's not that you get stale, or jaded. It's like even if you've been in a job for too long and your standards start slipping a little bit, is because you're tired of the same monotony all the time. Not that no, that's going to come out like I'm moving on and living for grand, which is absolutely not the case because it couldn't
No,
be
and
further from the
I
truth.
fully understand it, but that was an awareness thing between both of you. Both
Yeah,
of you knew
yeah,
that you wanted to do something. Oh, the lights are going off there. So you both knew you wanted to do something and
yeah,
thinking about the future. But
yeah,
many people go through that, and it takes a moment
yeah.
to stir something up inside and for you to change, because comfort, by the way, we all, comfort's the enemy of being great,
That's right.
because it's like you work towards getting something. Like for me, not having money, right,
Mm,
growing up, so my goal getting involved in property and business was to make more money.
yep.
And then when you make more money, the very thing that you chased after that you thought would change your life, and it
Mm-hmm,
does change your life,
mm-hmm.
but you then fall into a place of comfort
Yeah,
and complacency.
that's right.
And that could then be years of that. And
Mm-hmm.
it was for me.
Yeah,
When I started making real money, because I never had any, I was like, I'm quite enjoying this for a moment.
mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
because up until that moment, it was always grinding, working hard, trying to make money.
yeah.
But then when you've built a big enough portfolio, you've got money coming in, and yeah, I'm like, wow, I want to enjoy this a little bit,
That's
which I'm
right.
glad I did. And but then you realize it takes a little shake up.
Yeah,
Like I tell the story often that if it wasn't for me going spending 8 days with Dan Pena, which was 10 years ago, that
unbelievable.
I probably would have been comfortably complacent,
Mm-hmm.
being happy with things,
Yeah,
just getting on with it, but not realizing that I was capable of so much more.
yeah, yeah, 100%. And I think COVID played a big part in that for me because you just felt you were doing the same thing every single day. You know, getting up, seeing the kids, getting them to school, getting them back from school, doing the dinner, doing the shopping. Grant going offshore, Grant coming back from offshore, and even that's an adjustment because you get into your own routine when he's away. Um, and then he comes home and you've suddenly got somebody else to consider again. You think all the decisions I was making for 6 weeks, suddenly I'm thinking, oh, I better run it by Grant. And then that that takes an adjustment as well. And I just think you can just get so stuck in your own ways that you don't get the chance to, it's like taking blinkers off, you know, and just
Yeah.
thinking, what else is out there? Why are we, when I think back to my younger days when I was like, I was holding down 3 jobs. I was working in a car auctions in the evening. I was working in a hotel as a barmaid the other 3 nights of the week. And I was also an assistant manager in the travel agents. And that was just to help me keep my car on the road to get me to my main job. And you
Yeah.
just think, how was I managing to do all that before? And now I'm not just being a mum, because that's something that's played down far too much, because mums are fab sore dads, obviously. But you just think, how did I manage to squeeze all that into my day? And how am I not managing to do that now? And now, luckily, we are both managing to do it now. And
Yeah.
I do look forward to the day that Grant's going to be able to say goodbye to offshore work, because he's sacrificed quite a bit of his life. That must be almost 27 years that he's been offshore, apart from a kind of large, kind of chunky break in the middle through personal things we were going through. So that sacrifice was for the sake of the family. But it's time for him to come home and enjoy a wee bit, reap the rewards a little bit more now. And
Yeah.
I've seen a change in Grant. He's got a different spark in him, knowing that there's, an end in sight to
Yeah.
hopefully saying cheerio to all that stuff. So
Yeah. I love
it's
it.
all
It's
good.
exciting. It really is, because it's what you've accomplished, both you guys, in the last year is remarkable, and I often need to remind people, because we forget about the success that we've had. Because I often tell the story about my first year in property. In fact, most people who go through Protege achieve more in their first year than I did my first 5. Which is just amazing for everyone, in terms of getting the knowledge and education. But you guys did the work. You've put the time and effort in, and got the results for it. And it's going to be amazing to see where you're going to be another year from now.
Yeah.
And it's just exciting to see you guys growing, as people, going through that personal development,
Yeah.
but at the same time, just seeing the rewards and building your wealth, and having something to, for your family and everything else. It's just
Yeah,
unbelievable.
I'm looking forward to the future. There was a time in our lives that we thought that was going to be quite rough, but I am looking forward to our future, and we're happy that we're building that legacy for the children we have now, that we're going to be able to leave them a little bit of something when we are not here, and hopefully get a chance to enjoy a little bit of life as a family together more often, doing the things that Grant's missed out on so much. So yeah, exciting times ahead.
Love it. What motivation. What better motivation, So for people to reach out to you and connect with you, where would they connect with you?
So I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok.
So all the usual
All
platforms.
the usual platforms, yeah.
Brilliant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to link off in the show notes to Lynn's social handle so you can connect with her. But it's been an absolute pleasure having a conversation. I know that this will not be the last time. In 6 months or a year from now, we're going to have you back on talking about the next evolution of yourself and the deals and all that stuff. We're going to be doing it for sure, because this has been fun. And I know that people are going to be watching and listening to this. They're going to be inspired. I just know that for sure.
Well, you definitely can do it. If I can, then anybody can. Just grab it and run with it.
Great stuff. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast, Lynn.
Thanks again, Paul.
It's been an absolute pleasure. So as always, if you've got any comments or any questions, pop them in the comments below. I'm going to link off to Lynn's social handles in the show notes as well. So feel free to go in there, connect with her, reach out to her. And again, until next time, all the best and bye for now.